I'm Alison, and I thought I knew what love and loyalty meant after 25 years of marriage to Greg, my rock, my steady hand through life's storms. But last night, under the flickering neon lights of a club we stumbled into, desperate to reclaim a spark of youth, I felt something awaken in me, a restless hunger I couldn't ignore. As the bass thrummed through my veins and strangers' eyes lingered with dangerous promises, I stood on the edge of a choice that could shatter everything I've built. What did I do when temptation whispered my name? And will the weight of my secret crush me before I can find my way back? Picture this. A quiet evening, the kind where the world seems to hold its breath, and I'm standing at the edge of my backyard, staring at the old oak tree that's been there longer than I've been alive. Its gnarled branches twist toward the sky like they're reaching for something just out of grasp, and I can't help but feel a kinship with it, rooted deep yet yearning. My name is Alison, and at 50 years old, I've got a lot of roots of my own, some tangled, some stronger than that ancient tree. I've been married to Greg for 25 years, a quarter of a century spent building a life together in this small, unassuming town where the biggest excitement is the annual harvest fair. But beneath the surface of our quiet existence, there's a restlessness in me, a whisper that's been growing louder with each passing year. I wasn't always like this, you know. When Greg and I first met, I was a whirlwind of dreams, a young woman with plans to paint the world in colours nobody had ever seen. He was steady, a man who could anchor me when my head was in the clouds. We'd spend hours talking about everything and nothing, lying in the grass under a sky full of stars, our hands brushing in ways that sent sparks through me. Those early days were electric, charged with a kind of heat that made the air between us hum. Even now I can close my eyes and feel the ghost of those moments, the way we'd steal away to hidden corners, letting our passion unfold in whispers and touches that spoke louder than words. We were untamed then, lost in each other, in a dance of desire that felt like it could last forever. But time has a way of smoothing out the edges, doesn't it? 25 years, 2 kids grown and gone, and a house that's too big for just the 2 of us now. It changes things. Greg is still my rock, still the man who can fix anything with a wrench and a stubborn glare, but somewhere along the way the fire between us dimmed to embers. We've settled into routines, into comfortable silences that stretch longer than they used to. I'm not complaining, not really. I love him, I do. But there's a part of me that's been waking up lately, a part that wonders if this is all there is. If the dreams I tucked away in a box somewhere are still waiting for me to dust them off and give them life again. I spend a lot of time out here by this oak tree, especially on evenings like this when the sun dips low and paints everything in shades of gold and shadow. It's my place to think, to unravel the knots in my mind. I've been feeling off kilter lately, like I'm standing on the edge of something I can't quite name. Maybe it's turning 50, that milestone that forces you to look back at the road you've travelled and wonder about the paths you didn't take. Or maybe it. So here I am, stepping out of that quiet, reflective moment by the oak tree and into a world I haven't touched in years. Greg and I decided to shake things up tonight, to break free from the monotony of our small-town life, and that's how we ended up at Neon Pulse, a club on the edge of the city that pulses with a life of its own. The moment we walked through those heavy double doors, it was like stepping into another dimension. The bass of the music hit me first, a deep, relentless thrum that vibrated through my chest, making my heart race in a way it hasn't in ages. The strobe lights flashed in electric blues and vibrant pinks, slicing through the darkness and painting fleeting shadows across a sea of bodies. The crowd was mostly younger folks, their energy raw and unfiltered as they danced and laughed, lost in the rhythm. I could smell the mix of sweat and sweet cocktails in the air, a heady combination that made the atmosphere feel almost tangible, like I could reach out and grab it. Greg and I, well, we stuck out like sore thumbs at first. 2 middle-aged souls crashing what felt like a college rager, our sensible shoes and hesitant steps a stark contrast to the carefree chaos around us. I caught his eye as we shuffled through the crowd, and we both burst into laughter, the kind that comes from knowing just how absurd we looked. We made a beeline for the bar, figuring a drink or two might help us blend in, or at least help us stop caring that we didn't. I ordered a cosmopolitan, the sweet tang of cranberry and citrus hitting my tongue like a burst of nostalgia, while Greg went for a whiskey neat, his go-to no matter the occasion. We clinked our glasses together, his eyes crinkling at the corners as he toasted to feeling young again. There was a warmth in that moment, a flicker of the old us, and I savoured it as the first sip burned its way down. It didn't take long for the alcohol to work its magic on Greg. By the time he was halfway through his drink, his words started to slur, his laughter a little louder, a little looser. He leaned in close, his breath warm against my ear, joking about how he couldn't keep up with me anymore, how I was still the wild one after all these years. I smiled, a mix of affection swelling in my chest, but there was a twinge of frustration there too. He's so predictable now, so settled into the same patterns, the same lines. I love him. I do. But sometimes I wonder if he even sees the restlessness in me, the part that's itching for something more, something unexpected. As we sipped our drinks, my gaze wandered across the room, drawn to a group of 3 young men standing near the far edge of the dance floor. They were tall, muscular, exuding a kind of raw confidence that seemed to pull the light toward them. Their smirks were sharp, their eyes lingering on the crowd with a kind of hunger that made my pulse quicken just watching them. I'm standing near the dance floor now, the thrum of the music vibrating through my soles, my cosmopolitan half empty in my hand, the sweet burn of it still on my lips. The lights flash over me, casting fleeting shadows across my skin, and I feel that restless part of me stirring again, louder now, almost drowning out the noise around me. That's when one of them breaks away from the group and strides over, his walk all confidence like he owns the very air he's moving through. "Hey, I'm Tyler," he says, his voice smooth over the pounding bass, a charming smile curling his lips as his piercing green eyes lock onto mine. "I'm 28, personal trainer by day, and apparently a magnet for good vibes by night. My buddies and I couldn't help but notice you've got this energy. Doesn't look like you're a day over 35. I feel a flush creep up my neck at the compliment, a nervous laugh escaping me as I tuck a strand of hair behind my ear. He gestures to his friends who are watching with easy grins. "That's Jake, 29, works construction. Guy's got hands like a bear. And Marcus, 27, bartender with a knack for sweet talking. Come join us at our table over there in the quieter corner. We'd love to chat." I hesitate, my grip tightening on my glass as I glance toward the bar. Greg is there, slouched over the counter, his head resting on his folded arms, clearly out of it after one too many whiskeys. A pang of guilt tugs at me, but I push it down, telling myself it's just conversation, just a harmless way to pass the time while he sleeps it off. "Sure, why not?" I say finally, offering Tyler a small smile as I follow him through the crowd, the sea of bodies parting around us like water. Their table is tucked away from the chaos, the music a little softer here, though the bass still hums in my chest. Tyler pulls out a chair for me, his hand brushing my arm just briefly, and I sit, feeling the weight of their attention settle over me like a warm blanket. Jake, with his rugged, weathered look, leans forward, elbows on the table, his deep voice cutting through the noise as he tells a story about a near miss on a job site, his laughter rough and infectious. Marcus, all smooth charm, winks as he slides a shot of tequila my way, his flirtatious tone making my cheeks heat as he teases, "Bet you can handle this better than any of us." I laugh, the sound freer than it's been in years, and I toss back the shot, the fiery liquid searing down my throat, making my head spin just a little. We drink more, too many shots to count, each one blurring the edges of the night a bit further. My laughter comes easier now, their stories pulling me in, their compliments wrapping around me like a spell. They're so different from Greg, so full of raw strength and unapologetic confidence, their presence almost overwhelming compared to the sight of my husband, now passed out under the bar counter, his form a slumped shadow in the distance. I can see him from here, oblivious to everything, and a part of me aches at the sight, but another part, the restless, hungry part, thrives under the gaze of these 3 men, their attention feeding something in me I thought had long since faded. The night slips into a haze, the alcohol and the heat of the club melting away my inhibitions. I'm not thinking straight, not thinking at all really, just feeling alive in a way I haven't in decades. The conversation shifts, their voices lower, their looks more intent, and I find myself leaning in, drawn to the edge of something dangerous, something forbidden. It's like I'm watching myself from outside my body as I let my guard down completely, fueled by the burn of tequila and a desperate, clawing need for excitement. I cross a line I never imagined I'd even approach, let alone step over. In a secluded back, I'm slipping out of that secluded back room now, my breath shallow, my clothes a little askew, the fabric clinging to my skin in a way that feels like a scarlet letter. My hands fumble to adjust my blouse, smoothing it down as if that could erase the last hour. But my mind is a storm, churning with guilt so heavy it's like a weight on my chest. I can still feel the heat of their touches, the rush of forbidden thrill that coursed through me as I let myself get swept away in a moment of weakness with Tyler, Jake, and Marcus. It wasn't just talk back there, it was a dance of temptation I didn't pull away from, a surrender to something raw and reckless that I can't take back. My heart is pounding, not with excitement anymore, but with dread, as I step into the dim hallway, the muffled thump of the club's music seeping through the walls like a reminder of the chaos I've just created. As I edge toward the main area, I hear their voices behind me, casual and carefree, cutting through the haze in my head. Tyler's smooth tone carries over the others as he chuckles. "Man, that was a wild night, wasn't it? Thanks for the memories, Alison." Jake's rough laugh follows, and Marcus chimes in with a teasing, "Hope we didn't wear you out too much." Their words hit me like a slap, not because they're cruel, but because they're so nonchalant, like what just happened was nothing more than a game to them. And maybe it was. But to me, it's a fracture in the foundation of everything I've built over 25 years. I force a smile, my lips trembling as I turn my head just enough to acknowledge them, mumbling something incoherent about needing to find my husband. Their laughter fades as I hurry away, my steps uneven, my mind screaming at me for being so foolish, so selfish. The main area of Neon Pulse slams into me like a tidal wave as I push through the door. The music, once a thrilling pulse that made me feel alive, now feels like a hammer against my skull, each bass note driving the guilt deeper. The strobe lights flash erratically, casting jagged shadows across the writhing crowd, bodies pressed close, lost in their own worlds of rhythm and sweat. The air is thick with the scent of spilled drinks and overheated skin, and it clogs my throat as I weave through the mass of people, my eyes darting around, paranoid that someone might have seen me slip out of that back room, might have guessed what I've done. My heart is a frantic drum in my chest, each beat echoing a single thought. What if someone knows? What if Greg knows? I can barely breathe as I push forward, my palms sweaty, my dishevelled appearance feeling like a neon sign broadcasting my betrayal. I spot Greg exactly where I last saw him, slumped under the bar counter in a corner, his head tilted awkwardly against the wood, a faint line of drool trailing from the corner of his mouth. He's completely out of it, oblivious to the storm raging inside me, to the way I've shattered something sacred between us. I kneel beside him, the sticky floor cold against my knees, and my hands tremble as I reach out to shake him gently. "Greg, hey, wake up," I whisper, my voice cracking under the weight of my emotions. He doesn't stir at first, and I shake him a little harder, my fingers digging into his shoulder as if I can shake away my own mistakes. My mind is a battlefield, thoughts colliding with brutal force. How could I do this? 25 years of marriage, of shared mornings and quiet nights, of raising our kids and weathering every storm together. How could I throw that away in one stupid, reckless moment? I've always prided myself on being the steady one, the one who holds it all together, but tonight I let that restless part of me take the wheel, and now I'm drowning in the wreckage. Greg groans finally, a low, incoherent mumble slipping from his lips as his eyelids flutter. I grab a half-empty glass of water from the counter above, not caring whose it was, and splash a little of that lukewarm water on Greg's face, hoping it'll jolt him back to some semblance of awareness. His eyes blink open slowly, hazy and unfocused, and he mutters something about the night being a blast, his voice thick with the fog of too much whiskey. I force a tight smile, nodding as if everything's fine, as if I didn't just unravel the fabric of our life in a hidden corner of this chaotic club. My stomach twists into knots as I help him sit up, his weight heavy against my shoulder, and I signal to a nearby bouncer for help getting him out of here. The bouncer, a burly guy with a no-nonsense look, nods and calls for a cab over his radio, and I'm grateful for the small mercy of not having to drag Greg through the crowd alone. We stumble out into the cool night air, the sudden quiet a stark contrast to the pounding chaos inside Neon Pulse. The cab is already waiting, its yellow paint chipped and faded under the streetlights, and I manage to get Greg into the back seat with the bouncer's help. I slide in beside him, the worn leather creaking under us, and the driver, a middle-aged man with tired eyes, glances at us in the rearview mirror before pulling away from the curb. Greg's head lolls against the window, his breathing uneven, and he mumbles again about how much fun he had, how it felt like old times. Each word is a shard of glass in my chest, cutting deeper with every slurred syllable. I stare out my own window, watching the city lights blur into streaks of colour, my reflection a ghostly outline in the glass. My throat tightens, a lump forming that I can't swallow down, and I feel the weight of my actions pressing against me, heavier than I ever imagined possible. Then out of nowhere, Greg's hand fumbles for mine, his grip weak but insistent. His voice, rough and barely coherent, breaks through the silence. "You're the best, Ali. I don't deserve you." Those words, they slice through me like a blade sharper than anything I've felt all night. My breath catches, and I turn my face further away from him, hiding the tears that spill over without warning. I can't let him see me like this, can't let him glimpse the storm of shame and regret tearing me apart inside. The tears are hot on my cheeks, silent but unstoppable, and I bite my lip to keep from making a sound. In the rearview mirror, I catch the cab driver's eyes flicking toward me, a flicker of curiosity or maybe concern in his expression, but he doesn't say a word. I wouldn't know what to say, even if he asked. How could I explain this? How could I put into words the way I've betrayed the man sitting beside me, the man who's been my foundation for over 2 decades? My chest aches, a deep throbbing pain that feels like it's cracking me open from the inside. My mind won't stop replaying the moments from earlier, the reckless abandon I gave into with Tyler, Jake and Marcus. It's like a loop of bad dreams I can't escape, flashes of heated glances, the thrill of forbidden closeness, the way I let myself be swept into a whirlwind of temptation that I knew was wrong from the very first second. I can still feel the ghost of their presence, the way it ignited something in me I thought was long buried, and now that fire has turned to ash, leaving nothing but guilt in its wake. My hands tremble in my lap, and I clench them into fists, trying to steady myself, but the physical sensations are overwhelming. My skin feels too tight, my heart too heavy, every breath a struggle against the weight of what I've done. The cab ride feels endless, each passing street a reminder of how far I've strayed from the life I've built. When we finally pull up to our house, the familiar sight of our porch light glowing softly in the dark should be a comfort, but it only deepens the hollow feeling inside me. I pay the driver with shaky hands, mumbling a thanks as I help Greg out of the cab. He's barely. It's the morning after, and I'm standing in the kitchen, moving through the motions like some kind of hollow shell, a zombie in my own home. The faint light of dawn creeps through the window, casting long, pale shadows across the counter as I fumble with the coffee maker. The rich, earthy smell of the grounds hits me as I scoop them into the filter, a scent that usually brings comfort but today just feels like a bitter reminder of normalcy I don't deserve. Outside, the birds are chirping, their cheerful trills slicing through the heavy silence of the house, mocking the storm still raging inside me. Everything feels empty now, like the world has lost its colour overnight. I can hear the faint drip of the coffee brewing, each drop a slow, deliberate tick of time, and it's as if the weight of last night is pressing down harder with every second that passes. Upstairs, Greg is still asleep, snoring off the haze of too much whiskey from our night at Neon Pulse. I helped him stumble into bed after we got home, his heavy frame leaning on me as I guided him up the stairs in the dark. He mumbled something sweet even then, half conscious about how much he loves me. and it took everything in me not to break down right there on the spot. Now, as I stand here waiting for the coffee to finish, I'm wrestling with a decision I never thought I'd have to make. I've decided not to tell him about what happened last night, at least not yet. Maybe not ever. The thought of confessing, of seeing the hurt and confusion in his eyes, of watching the life we've built over 25 years crumble, it terrifies me more than anything I've ever faced. Losing him, losing this home, this quiet routine we've carved out together, it's a risk I'm not ready to take. Not after everything we've been through, the laughter, the tears, the late-night talks that stitched us closer even when things got hard. I can't bear the idea of unraveling it all because of one reckless mistake. But keeping this secret, it's eating at me already. I feel like a stranger in my own skin, like I've stepped into someone else's life and don't know how to get back to mine. Part of me is still reeling from the rush of last night, that forbidden thrill that coursed through me in those stolen moments in the shadows of the club. It was like a wildfire, consuming every rational thought, every shred of loyalty, leaving me breathless and alive in a way I hadn't felt in years. But now, in the cold light of morning, that fire has turned to ice and the weight of betrayal is crushing. I betrayed Greg, the man who stood by me through every storm, who's held my hand through the mundane and the monumental. How could I let myself get swept away by a fleeting temptation, by whispers and touches that promised excitement, but delivered nothing but shame? I'm torn between the memory of that dangerous high and the suffocating guilt that's taken its place, and I don't know how to reconcile the two parts of myself that are at war right now. I've already taken steps to bury this, to lock it away where it can't hurt anyone else. Before I even came down to the kitchen this morning, I sat on the edge of the bed with my phone in my trembling hands. Tyler had slipped his number to me as I was leaving the club, a scrap of paper pressed into my palm with a knowing smirk that made my stomach churn even then. I stared at those digits for a long time, my thumb hovering over the screen, before I forced myself to delete it. I watched the contact disappear, a small act of erasure, as if that could wipe away the memory of what I'd done. And I've made a vow to myself. I'll never go back to Neon Pulse. That place, with its pulsing lights and seductive chaos, it's a Pandora's box I can't afford to open again. I can't risk stepping into that world where my resolve crumbled so easily, where I let myself forget who I am, who I'm supposed to be. I need to stay far away from anything that could tempt me to stray again. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.